do ghosts exist? Well, societally or scientifically, it's like, that's hocus pocus. We don't want to talk about it. But whether we accept it as a society, community, or a scientific mind, whether we accept it or not, the fact is that it's occupied our imagination for centuries. And you can see actually, just last year, 10% of theatrical revenue is coming from horror films. And you can see like there's about $112 billion worth industry, all the supernatural stuff, and all, and there's an increase in it. It's more than doubled actually in the past couple some years. So it's surely occupying our imagination. So then let's re-examine this assumption we have that they don't exist, and because it's not scientifically proven. If you go into it more carefully, science does not deny the existence of it. It just says it's not scientifically measurable, or we've not been able to prove it or replicate it because of the very nature of the random nature of the occurrence. But it's not saying doesn't exist. It's just saying with our current instruments we can't measure it. And that brings us to the problem with science. It's the reductionism phenomena, that we have to break everything down to small pieces and then examine the pieces. But sometimes in this process of breaking everything down and bringing it to the material platform, you lose some information about the whole. Anyone who studied science knows that we have to make some big assumptions in any mathematical formula. So in these assumptions, you lose some part of the reality. While this method of reducing everything to small pieces and bringing it to material platform and understanding the small and then assuming the whole is an expansion of the small, while this method is good for building machines, when it comes to human emotions and things, for example, this reductionism when applied is like, love is just a bunch of hormones interacting. Life is just a bunch of chemicals interacting, you see? So you lose some meaning in there. And that's what happens when we try to understand something like ghosts or so-called paranormal, because I question, like, what is normal before you label something paranormal. What is normal? What is our normal? Like, we're just some matter, some chemical lying around and some hormones interacting, and that's it. There's no more to us, because the value of chemicals in our body is not more than, it's like less than $10. So mostly water, 75%. So what, I mean, is that what you think life is? If not, then the question is, what more is there? And then you start to see like how reducing everything to the material platform, we actually are losing some bits. I would propose that instead of dismissing it off, I'm not saying that you believe in ghosts, but don't have infallible faith in that they don't exist either. And for a moment, just for a moment, if you actually consider that they perhaps might exist, it's paranormal because we can't explain it, not because it's not normal. It's just depends on what's your point of reference. If you go into the Vedic text, if you go into the yoga text, if you go into a lot of mystic traditions, you'll see like it's normal for that. So for us, we can't explain it using the frame of reference we have. So why not question the frame of reference? And that brings me to like the point that there is different planes of our existence. If 5 minutes, if you believe that ghosts were real, then that raises the question, besides just this body that I see, what more is there to my existence that I'm not aware of? Could there be something, like, if the body is all in all, then when you're sitting next to your friend and your friend's lying dead on the floor, I hope this never happens, but just hypothetically, why are you crying? The body is still there. Why are you crying? Why are there tears welling up in your eyes without any plan and strategy? It's because you inherently know that something is not there. So that raises the question, what other than the body is there to our existence? So ghosts and paranormal and all these things, they really pose the question, what more is there? So the Bhagavad Gita, the yoga text, will explain there are three levels to our existence. There is the gross material level, which we spend 99% of our time on. It's not supposed to be like that, but we do. Then, besides the gross material level, there is a subtle plane of existence. We live in a multi-dimensional world, not just a three-dimensional world, actually. There's many more dimensions. So there is a subtle level of existence. And on the subtle level of existence, there's mind, intelligence, and ego. All together, these three form the subtle body. So when you say you see a ghost, what you're seeing is a disembodied being, or you could call them a being with a subtle body. It's like, it's hard to wrap your head around it, but you've got to start thinking that again. Back to that question, if the if body is all there is, then why are you crying? Why does it matter? There is more. So the subtle body is the second layer to our existence. So when we say, "Hey, if I feel spaced out," that's your subtle body is like, hovering outside. It's not because your lifestyles are so crazy. A subtle body and gross body sometimes are disconnected in ways, and we feel like so spaced out. Sometimes people have out of body experiences. Who goes out of the body, and how do they go out of the body? The subtle body can drag the soul in and out of the gross body. So there is that reality. And then the last plane of existence is a spiritual plane of existence, which is the soul. So you have these three planes of existence, and then you can perfectly understand that, so when the subtle body and the spiritual body are separated from gross body at the time of death, there's a separation created. And sometimes when it happens in an untimely fashion, or if it happens when you've like a person who's just cultivated a life of intense attachments, your body is gone, but you're not ready to move on. Those times you get stuck in these subtle bodies. And then you start to stop thinking of these as scary experiences or scary creatures, but you actually understand the pain they are in because they don't have a physical body. But the desires are still there because the desires, all of that is just in the mind. The mind's still there, the subtle body is still there. So it's a very painful kind of existence. So the question, the final question that everyone had, that, well, how can I communicate with the spirits or ghosts? Well, you see, just like English is a language of business, loosely speaking, French is a language of romance and things, Sanskrit is the language of the soul, and mantras are these specially coded sound vibrations that any and every species of life can hear, including disembodied beings. So ancient mantras are able to, whether you understand, and especially the Maha Mantra that I practice, whether you understand it or not, it has an effect. Just like you might take a medicine which is meant to cure some disease. You may or may not understand the chemical composition of the medicine, but when you have it, it cures the disease. The same way these mantras are meant to liberate the subtle body, the soul from the subtle and the gross body. So when you have these mantras, through the medium of your ears, when you start chanting these mantras, they enter your heart, start cleaning it up, and they free you of bodily identification. And this is the problem with us people, because we're identifying with the gross body, and with the ghost people, because they're identifying with the subtle body and the body that's gone, and they're holding on to these attachments, but the source of that attachment's gone, so they're not able to move on. So for us and for them, it's the same problem: unfulfilled attachment, uncontrolled attachment and desires. And mantras, I chant the Hare Krishna mantra. So these mantras, they actually help you disengage from these unfulfilled attachments.